Hey everyone, and welcome back to Excel Nerds. Today we're going to talk about pivot tables and how they can be improved in your workflow. So we have this data for a website where we show the visits to the website, the sales, and the conversion rate. Very standard set of data you might see when you're analyzing data. So if I create a pivot table from this, the shortcut is Alt N and then V. Put it on an existing worksheet just for simplicity. Start to build it out. A very typical thing you might see when you're analyzing data is a set of data like this. You analyze it, you might pull out some insights, and then you're going to have to refresh this on a weekly or monthly basis. So let's actually add a chart as well. The shortcut is Alt N and then N1. Add a chart. We'll actually change this to a combo chart. A combo chart is great when you have data like this where the scale of the data you're looking at is different. In other words, the number of sales are far less than the number of visits. So the right axis can be the sales and the left axis can be the visits, and we can compare them side by side without having to keep them on the same axis. So here we can start to look at some trends that are happening. For the most part, as our traffic goes up and down, the conversions go with it. But in November of 2019, I can see that the traffic stays strong, but the conversions kind of dipped here. So it's a very typical kind of thing you might look for, trends in your data. But now let's say you get 3 months worth of data in addition, and you have to refresh this pivot table. This is what the process might look like. You have this 2020 data. You would autofill this down. Then we click on our pivot table, change the data source. We'll select a new range, and then it refreshes. The pivot chart also recognizes that we have data into 2020. But I want to show you a little trick that will actually help you with that last part a lot, that refreshing of the pivot table. I know many times I've had workbooks like this where I would have 4, 5, 6 pivot tables that are all being pivoted off one large set of data. So to have to do that manually is very cumbersome, to do that manually for every pivot table. So we'll delete the data. We'll change the data source to go back to the original source. I can leave that there. And I'm going to change this data set to be formatted as a table. So if I go Control T, you format that like a table. If I go to change data source, it'll probably recognize this as just one table. So table 3. So now the pivot table is using the same data, but it's formatted like a table. So we have the same analysis, the same charts we set up, and look what happens when I paste the new data into our table. We'll autofill that down, and if I click refresh, boom. So Excel automatically recognized that that new data was part of the original data set, and I don't have to change the data source every single time. So the next time you're setting up data to make a pivot table, consider formatting the data range as a table to make your workflow even better.